Hi, this is Isabelle Litzler, the place to be to develop your skills and grow your potential. So, someone left a comment under a video about going to our first events, and I thought that would be a great topic to present today. Is what do you do when you're going to your first events? What are some of the behaviors and practices that you can put in place to increase your chances of getting some great networking experiences? So I have basically a three-step process, which is before, during, and after that I will explain to you. But before that, I want you to be aware of my three goals of networking, which I talked about before. So for me, there's really three goals or three objectives that people can follow when they network. So the first one is about introducing yourself and basically networking to integrate. So this is great when you're a new expat in town, for example, and I recommend this one a lot. And the two others is basically to network to get a job and to network to do business, which is really for people who have a business and maybe they're looking for sponsors or people who can fund them and so forth. So I would assume most people watching this video, you're more on the objective number one or number two, which is networking to integrate or networking to get a job. So before you go into networking to get a job, there's going to be some steps. You need to get a little bit more used to networking so become a little bit more comfortable to talk about you, to talk about what you expect in terms of networking and get some results there. At the beginning, it is going to be a bit daunting to just introduce yourself in events. So really the first step is to prepare yourself to be integrated. So when you choose the go to get integrated, it takes a little bit of preparation so that you can get more visibility when you go to events. So there's a whole idea of mental and physical preparation. So by mental preparation, I mean, do you know a little bit about your project, your career project? Have you worked enough on it that you can at least talk a little bit about it? And there's the physical preparation where, are you happy with your clothes right now? Do you need to maybe do a little bit of some coaching there, image coaching, so that you feel comfortable? Maybe you left the workforce for a while, or maybe you are a new expat in town and you come from a country where everyone is by the beach, if you're in Australia or countries like that. So you need to be prepared for that, knowing that in Switzerland, it's quite dressed up. I mean, in Geneva and Zurich, especially, and if you're going to the banking or all these fields, people are quite dressed up. So if you go to events, you need to have the proper attire and be prepared to showcase yourself to be in line with the local culture. So really, the preparation is all about how do you apprehend the culture, the local mindset. So being ready a little bit to be in a different world there, at least at the beginning. And then once you go, so number two is really during the event, what do you do? So you are prepared, you know a little bit about your project, you're dressed up. So people are not going to come to you immediately, especially if they don't know you. So I would keep it again very low key. What I do most of the time is I'm a resourceful person when I go to events. So I would be the type of person who always has some type of suggestions when people ask me some questions about where's the buffet or what are some of the events happening in town. Or so when you're someone who's a little bit curious about your local city, or maybe you've researched a little bit some of the events for yourself, so you know already what's happening, you can share that with people that you meet there. Avoid hot topics, meaning politics, economics can be also borderline. So I would say at the beginning, avoid topics that are too polarized. So you want to keep it low key. Again, talk about the buffet, talk about what you learned during the event. Ask people what they thought about it. So those are really neutral type of territories, and usually it works quite well. Now, don't worry so much when you go to an event about being so impactful and having a lot of contacts, because at the beginning, you're probably not going to talk to a lot of people. And it's quite normal because you need to get used to the idea of introducing yourself, going towards people as opposed to staying in the corner type of thing. So it takes some getting used to. But what you can do is, again, make sure that you're the type of a person who's open, When you go to an event, always try to smile and being that type of a person that's easy to approach so that you maximize the chances of people coming to you. Now, when people ask you about your business card or your LinkedIn, make sure you have those, of course, with you. So again, it's a little bit linked to your preparation. Did you upgrade your resume and your LinkedIn so that before you go to the event, so that before you start talking about it, you're a little bit proud of what you have on your profiles online and you're happy to share that? Because if you forgot to work on your LinkedIn and your resume and people ask you, it's going to create some anxiety. So the anxiety, in my view, comes from all lack of preparation in all these areas. And if you know where you're going and everything is lined up, then anything that people ask you, you have a reply for it. So that's a little bit linked of how much effort have you done into your career project so that by the time you network, you maximize your chances of having a great experience and not being too anxious. The thing is that I want you to really think about, this is food for thought for the end of the year. There's only so many events that are going to be interesting for you to go to and appropriate for your field. Maybe there's going to be, let's say, a top five. Let's say you're in marketing and there's 5 events happening in marketing in a specific amount of time where you're going to meet probably all the go-to people in your city because the world is small and people do cross paths. So what you want to do is make sure that when you go the first time, you're really prepared. Because what's going to happen, let's say you go to an event, and I've seen this with people all the time. So they go to an event, they're not prepared, they're not dressed appropriately, they don't have a business card, they don't even have a LinkedIn profile. And let's say you meet the one person in the city that's really the person that you should speak to, and you say, sorry, I don't have a card, or sorry, my LinkedIn is not updated. Well, you already made a bad first impression. So even if you were to correct that and next time around you are prepared, the thing is the person already has this, you made a bad first impression and now to correct that is going to take a lot more work because then the person is going to be doubting whether you're serious or not. So again, I always say you don't have a second chance to make a good first impression. So that's why even the first event, make sure that you have everything prepared, even if you're not really at the stage where you're pitching to get a job, but at least you're there to introduce yourself, but you have all your documents and your social media is lined up. So that would be my recommendation. And now once the event is over, what you want to do is follow up immediately, because if you met some people and you keep their cards or you keep their LinkedIn but you're not doing anything with it, it's a little bit of a waste of time. Even if you were to contact them way after that, it's not going to have the same impact. So always contact them, I would say, within 24 hours after the event. And by the way, this is where most people, including the best networkers, are going wrong there, is that they're not good at following up and maintaining the connection. So it's not just following up immediately after, like 24 hours after, and leaving it there. It's about really nurturing this contact over time. So making sure you send regular messages or you follow them on social media, and you're always a little bit more or less involved with their work. So it's really work through the distance. And that's where again most people fail, is they want to have immediate connections. Even if they get those connections and they're ready to message them, if they're not good at keeping up with them, then they're going to have to do it all over again in the next couple of years. And this is why very few people have a lasting network. And I would say 100% of the people who contact me are in that beginner stages, even though they're, beyond their early years in their career. It's because probably at some point they did know some people, but they didn't maybe follow up or didn't nurture those relationships. And then, in your 40s or when you were in mid-career, you need to start all over again when you could have had already 20 years worth of contacts in your pocket, basically in your cards or in your LinkedIn. So make sure that you nurture those contacts long term so that you don't have to start from scratch every other time when you're looking for a job or you're starting a project. The idea is these people stay with you, they will keep up with you, and you do it for the long run. So you're not, and then you get to a point where You don't really have to go to events anymore. I know I'm at a point now where I could, if I wanted, going to events, but I actually don't go to so many events anymore because I already have a strong base of a network, and I work through that to get new contacts, and I don't even go to so many events. So that's a good way for you to also find a way that makes you happy. Is you don't have to go to events for your entire life all the time. At the beginning, yes, because you will need to build something. But once you get to a stable point where you have enough contacts that you can already be busy with, then you just work through those to get further, and you don't have to go from scratch all the time forever and always have to get new contacts. You don't necessarily to get new contacts all the time. The exception maybe would be if you completely change careers and all of your network is not necessarily going to be able to help you anymore. You completely make a huge turn, and then you need to go to people that are in a different industry. That's a bit specific to changing careers. But if you're always going to be more or less in the same career path, you get to a stage where you should have already a good network to work with, and the job is not going to be so you're not going to have to push, and it's going to get easier basically. Less events to go to, less messaging to do, etc., etc. So tell me what you think about that. Where are you at right now in your journey? Are you in the early stages? Do you have a network already, but you don't find maybe that it's so useful for you anymore? I'd be curious to know, and I will talk to you soon.